The sky cracked open like shattered glass. What looked like fire poured down from the heavens, streaks of red and gold turning to smoke as they struck Earth's surface. No one believed the early reports, not really. People saw the news, the shaky phone recordings, and thought it was just another stunt. Some viral thing cooked up by a bored billionaire or a movie promo gone too far. But it wasn't. By the time the first city fell, denial turned to chaos. New York didn't just lose power. It didn't just go quiet. It vanished. 1 second it stood proud, defiant, shining like it always did. The next, a blinding light swallowed everything whole. Buildings collapsed into themselves. Skyscrapers folded like paper. And the people, they weren't even left to scream. A shockwave echoed across the ocean. That's when the world knew. We were under attack. They called themselves the Narros, though no one knew that at first. 7 feet tall, black armor that shimmered like oil on water, and glowing blue eyes that didn't blink. They didn't speak our language, didn't care to. They landed without a word and began their purge. It wasn't about conquest or control. They didn't want slaves. They didn't want Earth. They just wanted silence. Kill everything. That was the mission. The governments tried to fight, of course. Jets were scrambled, missiles launched, nukes even considered. But none of it mattered. Their tech was beyond comprehension. A single Narros cruiser hovered above DC for 36 minutes. That's all it took. The city was left in ruins, and the president, along with most of the cabinet, vanished into dust. I watched it all from the underground bunkers in Utah. They called us the Ghost Protocol, a last resort initiative nobody believed we'd ever use. Scientists, soldiers, hackers, and some of the worst people humanity had buried. All chosen for one reason. We were the monsters Earth would send when prayers failed. I wasn't a soldier or a genius. I was something else entirely. They called me Mira, no last name, just that. I was one of the twisted, the result of a long-buried human experiment that most thought had been shut down. Genetically modified, chemically enhanced, and neurologically unstable. They said I wasn't fully human anymore. Maybe they were right. We had no plan, no warning, just destruction. But humanity never needed hope to fight back. We only needed something to lose, and by now, we'd lost almost everything. When the first Narros war beast entered the mountain range, it crushed everything in its path. The rocks, the trees, even the air trembled around it. It looked like a walking cathedral, massive, gothic, and humming with alien energy. But it bled when I struck it. The moment my blade sliced through its armor, I felt a rush. Not fear, not triumph. Rage. A quiet, ancient kind of fury. Humanity wasn't supposed to survive this. We were supposed to bow, to crumble. But we weren't built that way. I stood over its body, covered in its thick black blood, breathing hard. My bones cracked from the impact, my skin torn, eyes bloodshot. But I was smiling. "They brought hell," I whispered, gripping my weapon tighter. "But we've got something worse!" Behind me, the rest of the Ghost Protocol units emerged. Men and women, soldiers and psychopaths, all with nothing left to live for, and nothing holding us back. We were the last line. We weren't here to defend Earth. We were here to make them regret touching it. The war beast's corpse still hissed on the ground, steam rising from the long wound I'd carved down its flank. Its thick, metallic skin twitched, as if it hadn't quite accepted death yet. The others stared at it in silence. No cheers, no celebration. We all knew what it meant. It was the first victory in a losing war. And we weren't naive enough to believe it would get easier. Colonel Rafe approached from behind, boots crunching over broken stone. He had a face made of leather and a voice that never rose above a growl. "That was a scout," he said. "Just a damn scout." I wiped my blade on my sleeve, the Narros blood already starting to corrode the fabric. Big one for a scout. They send beasts like that ahead of the main force, to soften resistance. His eyes scanned the sky, always looking for shadows that didn't belong. Means the real wave's coming. We headed deeper into the bunker after that. It wasn't much, just steel corridors, concrete rooms, and enough firepower hidden behind blast doors to level a continent. But it had something else. Mines. The kind of mines that governments once tried to keep secret. Men and women who built viruses that could rewrite DNA. Engineers who'd turned entire cities into experimental test beds. And a few like me. Living weapons designed in darkness. Dr. Elira met us in the war room. She had gray streaks in her black hair and the eyes of someone who hadn't slept in a decade. "You killed it?" she asked, not bothering with a greeting. "It bled," I replied. So yeah, she didn't smile, didn't even blink. Just tapped a touchscreen and brought up a hologram of the Narros mothership. It hung in Earth's upper atmosphere, like a god waiting to deliver judgment. Over 400 kilometers wide, bristling with weapons we couldn't even name. Every hour, it launched smaller crafts, razor-sharp ovals that moved like thoughts through the air and dropped nightmares onto what was left of the cities. "We've confirmed a full-scale terraformation cycle has begun," Elira said. "They're not just killing us, they're reshaping the planet for themselves." "What about the ARC protocol?" Rafe asked. She shook her head. "Gone. They hit the launch site in Brazil before the ships could even break orbit. We're not escaping. Not this time." The silence in the room pressed down like gravity. "We still have Project Revenant," I said. That made her pause. Project Revenant wasn't supposed to exist. It was a rumor, even among us. The last-ditch trigger. A biological weapon encoded into human cells. Mine, specifically. They hadn't designed it to save humanity. They designed it to make the Narros suffer. It was ugly, it was cruel, and it was personal. "You really think your body can handle that activation?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "You're barely stable now, Mira. You activate Revenant, you're not coming back." "I'm not planning to," I muttered. Rafe stepped in, fists clenched. "We don't make that call yet. Not unless there's no other choice." "There is no other choice," I snapped. "Every minute we wait, they wipe another city off the map. They're not just winning, they're erasing us." The alarm blared before he could respond. A deep, groaning howl echoed through the bunker walls. The Narros war horn. You didn't hear it unless they wanted you to. It wasn't sound, not really. It was a vibration that dug into your bones, whispering something ancient and terrifying. Submit. Everyone moved at once. No orders needed. We'd trained for this. Outside, the mountain shook. I raced up the central stairwell, passing soldiers strapping into exosuits and others injecting combat stims into their necks. My heart pounded in rhythm with the growing tremors. When I reached the surface, the sky was bleeding fire again. Dozens of Narros dropships screamed down through the clouds. And something else followed them. A figure, not a ship, not a machine, a Narros commander. I'd never seen one before. Tall, almost elegant, covered in sleek black armor that pulsed with red veins of energy. No eyes, just a smooth, curved helm. It landed without impact, like gravity didn't apply to it. And then it spoke. Not in words, but in thoughts. "You are not the masters of this world," the voice echoed inside my skull. "You are the mistake." I stepped forward, gripping my weapon tight. "You're about to see how dangerous mistakes can be." The Narros commander didn't move. It just stood there, silent and still, as if measuring us with senses we couldn't understand. Around it, the ground blackened in a slow ripple, like reality was struggling to keep itself together near its presence. Even the air felt wrong, thick, heavy like breathing tar. Soldiers fanned out beside me, exosuits hissing with readiness. Some had weapons I couldn't even name, experimental prototypes dredged from labs that didn't officially exist. But even with all that, none of them took a step forward. Because we could feel it. Power. Not the loud kind. Not the explosive sort we were used to. This was quiet, cold, and ancient. Like a god that didn't need to scream to be feared. It simply was. Then, without warning, it lifted one arm. The motion looked almost gentle, almost human, and 20 soldiers dropped dead instantly. No gunfire, no explosion, just death. Their bodies hit the ground like dolls with cut strings. No wounds, no blood, eyes wide open, frozen mid-breath. "Fall back!" Colonel Rafe barked through comms. But I didn't move. My feet stayed rooted, breath steady. That voice, it was still whispering in my mind, soft, probing. "You are broken things, crawling among the stars. You infect the universe with chaos," I growled back, loud enough to silence my own fear. "Takes one to know one." I sprinted toward it. Rafe screamed something behind me, but I wasn't listening anymore. Every fiber of my body screamed against the approach, pure instinct begging me to run, but instinct never won wars. Fury did. I struck first. My blade, molecular-edged, forged in tech labs buried under Russian ice, sliced across its midsection. It didn't bleed, not like the war beast. The commander staggered only slightly, and where the cut should have been, the armor shifted and sealed itself like liquid shadow. Then it moved. I didn't see the punch, just felt it. It hit me in the chest, and suddenly the world tilted sideways. I was flying through the air, slammed into a boulder hard enough to crack bone. My vision blurred, taste of blood filling my mouth. But I got up. Broken ribs screaming, joints shaking, I got up. It tilted its head, curious. "You should not be able to stand." I spat on the ground. Get used to disappointment. Before it could attack again, a thunderous roar erupted behind it. One of our mechs, an old warframe from the Pacific conflicts, charged in, shoulder-mounted cannons lighting up the dusk. Shells slammed into the commander, each one shaking the ground. For a moment, it vanished in a burst of fire and smoke, but when the smoke cleared, it was still there, alive. Smoking, scorched, but alive. It raised its hand again, and the mech collapsed in on itself like a crushed tin can. Screams echoed from inside before the wreckage went still. And still, I moved. Because I had one edge, one thing they didn't. Pain. Humans knew pain like an old friend. We grew in it, evolved through it. The Narros? They didn't understand pain. Not really. Their minds were too clean, too logical. They erased weakness. We weaponized it. I activated the serum in my bloodstream. Version 9 of Revenant, unstable, dangerous, incomplete. My skin burned instantly. Veins turned black, muscles spasmed, vision dimmed and sharpened all at once. But I felt it. Power. Real, terrifying power. The world slowed. I lunged, blade in one hand, plasma pulse in the other. I struck again and again, each hit faster, harder. The commander tried to keep up, but for the first time, it hesitated. That made me smile, because hesitation is the beginning of fear. I drove my blade straight through its chest. The armor fought back, pushing against the intrusion, but I forced it in with a growl of pure rage. My eyes met its featureless helm. "You want to see a nightmare?" I whispered. "You're looking at it." The energy pulsing from me flared, and for the first time, the commander screamed. Not in words, not in thoughts, but in pure psychic agony. The sound shattered glass across the valley. Birds dropped from the sky. Even my allies fell to their knees. But I stood tall, gripping the blade buried in its chest, watching it fall to its knees. And before it died, it said one last thing. You are not what we expected. I leaned closer. We never are. It collapsed, its body folding in on itself until it was just ash. No explosion, no final strike, just silence. And in that silence, I knew they would send more, many more. But now, they'd bleed trying. The body dissolved into nothing, its ashes vanishing with the wind as if the planet itself refused to remember it. Around me, the valley was still. No birds, no wind, just scorched earth and the distant groans of dying machines. My hands shook, part exhaustion, part aftershock from the serum coursing through me. Revenant wasn't meant to be used casually. It was a last resort, and I'd just burned through more of it than anyone ever had. My vision blurred again, edges swimming in red. I stumbled backward, knees buckling. Someone caught me before I hit the ground. "Got you," said Rafe, his voice rough, breathless. "You insane, suicidal freak, what the hell was that?" I tried to speak, but it came out as a rasp. My throat felt like it had been clawed from the inside out. My blood was too hot, boiling under my skin. Dr. Alira arrived seconds later, flanked by 2 medtechs. Her expression was unreadable, but I saw something in her eyes. Fear. Not of the Narros, of me. "We need to get her into containment, now," she snapped. "Containment?" Rafe frowned. "She just saved our asses." "She's unstable," Alira cut him off, already injecting something into my neck. Cold. Ice in my veins. "That much serum should have killed her. If it hasn't yet, it's mutating her further. You want a second Narros commander on our hands, only it's one of ours?" I faded in and out as they carried me back underground. Somewhere between the shaking halls and blinking lights, I heard someone say that satellites had picked up movement, massive movement, coming from orbit. The real invasion hadn't started yet. We'd only pissed them off. When I woke up, I was in a sealed room. Reinforced walls, observation windows, the kind of place you don't walk out of unless someone decides you're still useful. Tubes ran into my arms, monitoring systems blinking above me. I felt calmer, but hollow, like something inside had been scraped out. Rafe was there, arms crossed, leaning against the wall like he'd been standing there for hours. "How long?" I croaked. 3 days, he said. "You flatlined twice. They pumped you full of stabilizers, enough to sedate a tank." "What's the damage?" He didn't answer at first. Finally, he muttered, "They're here. The rest of them." My chest tightened. He continued. "They landed in clusters, Africa, Asia, parts of South America. But not like before. Not quick raids. They're establishing bases, terraforming faster, turning Earth into whatever hell they came from." "And us?" I asked. "We're preparing for a counterstrike. Not defense, not anymore. The commanders think offense is our only chance." I snorted. "Took them long enough." He stepped closer, voice dropping. "Mira, there's something else. The Narros. They're scared. After what you did, we intercepted some strange signals. Their frequencies are scrambled, but the tone changed. We think your activation triggered something unexpected. A panic, maybe." I blinked. "They're not supposed to feel fear." "Exactly." Dr. Alira entered then, hands folded, face tight with tension. She looked like someone carrying a secret that weighed too much. "I've run the analysis," she said. "The Revenant protocol in you, it's adapting. Not burning out like we expected. It's stabilizing." I frowned. "That's good, right?" She shook her head. "Not for you." Rafe stepped between us. "Explain." Alira looked at me, her voice quiet but heavy. "The serum bonded with Mira's DNA. It's no longer just a drug. It's rewriting her from the inside out. She's becoming something else." I didn't speak. What was there to say? "I'll keep fighting," I finally said. "Whatever's happening to me, it doesn't change the mission." Alira nodded slowly. "We expected you to say that." She handed me a small device. Cylindrical, pulsing with red light, not much bigger than a grenade. This is the key to the Oblivion engine. It's buried under what's left of the Siberian wastes. If we can reach it, we might be able to unleash something powerful enough to level one of their planetary bases. I stared at the device. What's the catch? You have to get there first, she said, through Narros territory. Rafe sighed. You'll be leading the team. A grin tugged at my lips. Perfect. Because if the Narros thought Earth was finished, they hadn't seen what nightmares looked like on a suicide run. The dropship roared overhead, slicing through black clouds and acid rain as it raced toward the Siberian wastes. I sat strapped into a reinforced harness, staring through a reinforced viewport as the shattered landscape of what used to be Eastern Europe blurred beneath us. Cities reduced to molten glass, forests turned to charred skeletons. The Narros didn't conquer. They erased. The team was silent. No chatter, no bravado. Just breathing. Slow and heavy. We all knew what this was. A one-way trip. The kind you don't come back from. But none of us flinched. Rafe sat across from me, gear worn and eyes unreadable. His pulse rifle rested across his lap, but he hadn't touched it since liftoff. He just watched me, probably wondering if I was still me. Elira's voice crackled through the comms. You'll be touching down just south of the engine site. Sensors are barely working out there. Narros interference. Expect the unexpected. Always do, I muttered, then turned to the team. Final checks, weapons hot, masks on. They moved fast. Clicks of armor sealing, HUDs lighting up, biosensors syncing. My own interface synced with the Revenant system embedded in my spine. It read my vitals in angry red numbers. Too high, too unstable, but alive. For now. The ship jolted, then dropped like a stone. 30 seconds, the pilot yelled. The back hatch opened mid-air, revealing a storm of black snow and screaming wind. The smell hit instantly. Burnt ozone, melted plastic. Something wrong with the very air. The Narros had already started their transformation of the terrain. This place didn't belong to Earth anymore. We jumped. The descent was brutal. Ice whipping our armor, gravity trying to shake us apart. My boots slammed into cracked ground as the drop jets hissed to a halt. Around us, the world looked like a graveyard of gods. Twisted metal spires pierced the sky, glowing faintly with alien energy. The snow wasn't snow. It was ash. Ash and bone. Move fast, I said through the comms. We've got 20 clicks to cover before the Narros pick up the trail. We began the march. Every step crunched on something brittle. Sometimes it was just frost-covered stone. Other times, I didn't want to know. The further we moved into the wasteland, the less earth it felt. Trees grew upside down, roots pulsing with red light. The sky shimmered in unnatural ways. Time itself felt wrong, slower, like we were walking through someone else's dream or nightmare. By the 10th click, we lost Torres. 1 second he was behind us, the next gone. No sound. No trace, just his comm link crackling once, then silence. Keep moving, Rafe said tightly. His jaw was clenched. If we stop, we're next. I felt the Revenant system stir in response to the tension. It liked fear, fed off it. I clenched my fists and kept walking. My body was changing faster now. I could feel it. Senses sharper, reflexes tighter, heartbeat slower than human, more deliberate, efficient. It scared me. But we had a job to do. We reached the edge of the engine's shell by dusk. It rose like a mountain of obsidian and steel, covered in alien scaffolding, with glowing veins of green and blue pulsing across its surface. The Narros had found it first, but they hadn't breached it. Not yet. Scouts, whispered Rafe, pointing to movement among the alien towers. Narros units, smaller than the commander but fast, insect-like. They crawled like shadows, blinking in and out of sight, flitting between twisted pillars and humming pylons. "We don't have time to sneak," I said. "We go loud, hit them hard, hit them fast. Get inside before the big ones show up." He nodded. "You take lead." I stepped forward, activated the Revenant spike in my bloodstream, and let the pain take hold. Fire lit my nerves. Vision snapped into crystal clarity. Every breath became thunder in my chest. Then I ran. Faster than I ever had before. Faster than human. The Narros scouts turned. Too late. My blade sliced through the first two before they made a sound. The third fired a plasma burst, but I was already past it, driving a spike into its core. Rafe's team followed behind, cutting through the rest with brutal precision. By the time the smoke cleared, the engine's main door loomed in front of us. Massive, sealed, alien. But I could feel it, reacting to me. The Revenant inside me pulsed with recognition. The door opened. Not with a command, not with a touch, but like it knew me. And that was when I realized this weapon wasn't made to stop the Narros. It was made by them. Inside, it was warm. Not the kind of warmth you get from fire or machinery. This was biological. Living. The walls of the engine pulsed like the inside of a beast, slick and humming with energy that prickled along my skin. Lights shifted in patterns that didn't seem random, as if the structure was watching us, breathing us in. The Revenant in my blood thrummed like a tuning fork, resonating with whatever force lived inside this place. Rafe stepped in behind me, rifle up. "This doesn't feel like a weapon," he muttered. "Feels like we're inside a creature." "You're not wrong," I whispered, pressing my hand against one of the walls. It rippled under my touch, and a low, groaning sound echoed down the corridor. The others behind us hesitated. "Fall back if you're not ready," I told them, voice flat. "This isn't going to be clean." No one moved. Good. I didn't want clean. I wanted truth, and whatever this place was hiding. We moved deeper. As we walked, the corridor shifted, literally, rearranging, guiding us, like it wanted us to reach the center. I didn't trust that, not for a second, but I didn't resist it either. The Revenant was leading the way now, more than me. I was just the vessel. We reached what looked like a chamber, wide, circular, the size of a small stadium. In the center stood a massive pillar, fused with both alien metal and bone, human bone, dozens of skeletons embedded in it, and not just soldiers, civilians, children, their faces twisted in agony, locked in eternal scream. One of the soldiers, Dren, stumbled back and threw up. "What the hell is this?" Rafe breathed. I stepped forward slowly, heart hammering. A voice filled the chamber, not sound, not words, but presence. It wrapped around my thoughts, pried into my memories, pulled me back to the moment I first took the serum, the pain, the terror, the betrayal. My screams echoed in my skull. "You are the key," it said, though its voice came from inside me. "You were always meant to return." I dropped to my knees. My hands burned. Revenant lines glowed under my skin like fire under glass. I was being rewritten again, this time faster, rougher. The engine wasn't just syncing with me, it was activating me. Elira's voice crackled over the comms, panicked. "Mira, what's happening? We're detecting massive energy spikes from the engine, like it's alive." "It is," I said through gritted teeth, "and it knows me." Suddenly, a section of the wall peeled back. A shape emerged, tall, humanoid, but unmistakably Narros. Not mechanical like the others. This one was organic, sleek, and monstrous, black as night, eyes burning with sickly green fire. "You have come far, spawn of Earth," it said aloud. Its voice was smooth, calm, too human. But this world is not yours anymore. Rafe raised his rifle, but I held up a hand. Who are you? I am the architect, it said. One of the first. I was tasked with seeding worlds for harvest. Earth was never meant to survive. My blood boiled. Then why build this engine? Why this place? Because sometimes, it said, stepping closer, a species resists. When it does, we study, we adapt, and we create something stronger. You're saying this was a test? I snarled. A forge, the architect replied. You are the result. The Revenant was never meant to save your species. It was meant to replace it. The chamber shook. The bones in the pillar pulsed. All around us, lights flared. My heart dropped as the realization hit me. They weren't building a weapon to destroy Earth. They were building me, a weapon to conquer other worlds in their name. No, I whispered. Yes, the architect said, and now you will fulfill your purpose. Everything inside me screamed to give in. The serum roared through my body, demanding I submit, become what they wanted, destroy Earth to spare it suffering, lead the charge to the stars in their name. But I wasn't just serum. I was human. And they had made one fatal mistake. They thought making me a weapon meant I'd fight for them. I stood up slowly, bones creaking, revenant fire pouring from my skin. You wanted a nightmare, I growled. Then wake the hell up. And I lunged at the architect, screaming not with pain, but with rage. The architect didn't flinch. It moved like liquid shadow, dodging my first strike with an elegance that was almost insulting. My revenant blade hissed through the air, narrowly missing its head as it twisted, grabbed my arm mid-swing and hurled me backward like a rag doll. I slammed into the wall, hard enough to leave a dent. My bones groaned, but they didn't break. The serum had made sure of that. I hit the ground and rolled to my feet, already lunging again. This time I didn't hold back. Every ounce of power the Revenant had given me, I poured into that attack. The ground cracked under my feet. The chamber pulsed, alive with violence. I came in low, fainted high, then spun and drove my elbow into the architect's side with enough force to rupture a tank. It staggered. Not much, but enough. The others opened fire. Rafe, Dren, and the rest unleashed everything they had. Plasma bolts, kinetic slugs, grenades. The architect howled as its shield flickered, faltered, and then shattered under the onslaught. But it didn't bleed. It didn't fall. It adapted. Its body shimmered, reformed, plating growing over wounds like a fast-forwarded nightmare. Its arms split open, morphing into a jagged blade of bone and black metal. With a roar, it charged. It struck Dren first, split him in two before he could even scream. Blood sprayed across the wall. The rest of the team broke formation, scattering to avoid the same fate. Rafe pulled a pulse mine from his belt, primed it, and threw. The blast caught the architect mid-step. It screamed again, this time in pain, its form destabilizing, tendrils of energy leaking from its torso like smoke. I seized the chance and leapt, driving my revenant blade straight into its chest. The feedback hit me like a freight train. I saw visions, memories not my own, worlds burning, civilizations falling, Narros ships blotting out stars, and in the center of it all, me, my face, my hands, leading them, a puppet in the skin of a hero. No, I hissed. You don't own me. I twisted the blade. The architect roared, shoved me back, and dropped to one knee, its body glitching like corrupted code. Around us, the chamber began to collapse, walls buckling, the central pillar shuddering. Rafe ran to me, grabbing my shoulder. It's failing! We have to get out of here! No, I said, breath ragged. We finish this, now! But... Go! He hesitated, then nodded grimly and motioned the others to retreat. I turned back to the architect, who was laughing now, bloodless and broken, but amused. You are strong, It rasped. Stronger than the others. You would have been a perfect host. I'm no one's host, I said. It lunged, slower this time, weaker. I dodged, slammed a foot into its knee, then struck upward, catching it under the chin with a reinforced fist. Its head snapped back, and I followed with a punch that cratered its chest. It fell to its knees. I stood over it, panting, Revenant systems burning hot under my skin. You wanted to forge a weapon, I said. You got one. Then I drove my blade into its core, all the way through. The light in its eyes died, and the engine screamed. The walls began to collapse completely now, massive plates falling, the entire structure folding in on itself. I ran. I didn't think, didn't breathe. I ran. Rafe and the others were already near the exit. Elira was overhead with the dropship, screaming coordinates, fighting to stabilize in the chaos. The ground behind me cracked open. Lava, or maybe something worse, poured through. 10 more steps. 5. I leapt through the hatch just as the engine imploded behind me. The shockwave hit us mid-air, threw the dropship sideways like a toy in a hurricane, but Elira held it steady, swearing the whole time. We flew away from the collapse, watching as the structure vanished in a blinding sphere of white light. Then silence. I sank into the floor of the ship, heart hammering. It was done. The architect was dead. The engine was gone. But deep inside, I knew it wasn't over. Because I could still feel the Revenant, still changing me, and somewhere in the stars, the rest of the Narros would be waiting. The stars looked different after what we'd done. Colder. Sharper. Like they were watching me now, not just shining. Maybe they'd always been watching. Maybe that's what the Narros were. Eyes of the void, never blinking, always waiting. We were halfway back to orbit when the damage reports came in. The engine's collapse had triggered a seismic shift across the region. Fault lines ruptured. Sinkholes swallowed entire ridgelines. The planet was bleeding, and not just from the wounds we gave it. Elira sat in the pilot's seat, silent. Rafe was across from me, staring down at the blood on his armor. Dren's blood. He hadn't said a word since we left the engine. I couldn't blame him. We didn't win a war. We just survived a massacre. And yet, something worse was still breathing inside me. Later, in the medbay, I sat under the scanners while Elira examined my vitals. The Revenant markers were still spiking, higher than ever before. You're stabilizing, she said. No, I replied, I'm changing. She looked at me like she didn't want to say what was on her mind, but I said it for her. I'm becoming what they wanted. She didn't deny it, just whispered, Can it be stopped? I shook my head. Not anymore. But maybe it can be redirected. That night, if you could call space night, I stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the black. My mind kept circling the architect's final words. You are the key, not just a key to the engine, a key to their future, to humanity's future. They hadn't tried to kill us because we were weak. They'd tried to rebuild us because we were strong and too stubborn to die. The Narros didn't want extinction. They wanted control, and when that failed, they wanted to use us. I'd destroyed their conduit, burned their design to the ground. But the war wasn't over. If anything, it was just getting started. The Revenant in my blood was no longer a weapon built by aliens. It was now ours. Humanity's. We just had to decide what to do with it. Rafe joined me on the deck sometime later. He stood beside me, arms folded, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. You planning to tell command about all this? He asked quietly. I will, I said, but they won't understand. Not really. They'll try to lock you down. I know. He nodded slowly. Then what are you going to do? I stared at the stars a long time before answering. I'm going to find them. Rafe turned. The Narros? I nodded. We can't wait for them to bring the next nightmare. We are the nightmare now. It's time they learn what that really means. You'll be hunted, he warned. I already am. He didn't argue, just clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, Then you'd better give them hell. By the time we returned to Earth, everything had changed. The footage of the engine, the architect, the dead, the serum, it all leaked. The public didn't know what to believe. Some hailed us as heroes, others called us monsters. Protesters filled the streets, demanding the destruction of the Revenant program. Command scrambled to clean it up, bury the truth. But the truth was already loose in the world, and so was I. A month later, I disappeared. Went dark, off-grid. The Revenant wasn't killing me, but it wasn't done with me either. My body kept changing, stronger, faster, less human. My memories began to blend with things that weren't mine. Visions of Narros shipyards, war plans, galactic maps. They had opened a door inside me. And now it opened both ways. I used it, traced their signal back. And one day, out in deep space, I found it, their fleet, dormant, waiting, tens of thousands of ships in orbit around a starless world, preparing for something bigger than Earth, something final. They hadn't noticed me yet. But they would. Because this time, the last experiment was coming home. Not as a soldier, not as a slave, but as something else entirely. A human nightmare forged in their own machine. And we don't beg. We don't bow. We bring the fire. And we never stop burning.